Have you ever wondered how a single act of loyalty could shape history? Prepare to be moved by this incredible story from the Bible, the story of Ruth. Let's step back in time to a humble, serene desert landscape filled with clusters of olive trees under the scorching Middle Eastern sun. In the ancient land of Moab, we meet Ruth, a young Moabite woman with striking determination and a heart full of faith. Ruth was married into a Hebrew family that had migrated to Moab during a famine. But tragedy struck when both her husband and her father-in-law passed away, leaving Ruth, her sister-in-law Orpah, and her mother-in-law Naomi grieving and vulnerable. Naomi, feeling defeated by life and bitter from her losses, decided to return to her homeland of Bethlehem, where she believed her life could be rebuilt. She told her daughters-in-law to return to their own families and seek new lives. Orpah, though heartbroken, obeyed Naomi's request, kissed her goodbye, and left. But Ruth? Ruth did something extraordinary. She clung to Naomi. She refused to leave her side. With tears in her eyes but unflinching determination in her heart, Ruth made a vow that would echo through the ages. She said, "Do not urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." Imagine the power behind those words. Ruth was choosing a path of certain struggle and unknown challenges. She was leaving behind her family, her people, and her gods. Yet, she was willing to adopt Naomi's land, her people, and her faith as her own. What drove Ruth to make such a bold and selfless commitment? And so Ruth and Naomi began their journey. They walked for miles through dusty plains and rugged hills until they reached Bethlehem. But arriving there did not mean life would be easy. They were two widows with no men to provide for them in a society heavily reliant on patriarchal structures. Hunger gnawed at their bellies. But Ruth did what Ruth does best. She stepped up. It was harvest season in Bethlehem. To provide food for herself and Naomi, Ruth went to glean in the fields, a biblical practice where farmers left behind grain in their fields for the poor to collect. It was here in the fields of Bethlehem that Ruth's story took an unexpected divine turn. Ruth found herself working in the fields of a man named Boaz. Now, Boaz wasn't just any man. He was wealthy, honest, and kind. And as it turned out, Boaz was a relative of Naomi's late husband. When Boaz saw Ruth working tirelessly in the heat of the day, he was struck by her dedication. He had heard of her loyalty to Naomi and admired her great character. To show kindness, Boaz instructed his workers to leave extra grain behind deliberately so Ruth could gather an abundance to take home. Ruth returned to Naomi with bags full of grain, and Naomi was astonished. When Ruth explained whose fields she had been working in, Naomi's mind began to churn. She knew Boaz was a kinsman redeemer. This term meant he had the cultural and legal ability to marry Ruth and restore their family's honor. Encouraged by Naomi, Ruth approached Boaz with humility and courage. She said to him, "Spread the corner of your garment over me, since you are a guardian redeemer of our family." This may sound unusual to us, but in their culture, it signified a request for marriage and protection. Boaz was moved. He admired Ruth even more for her kindness, her bravery, and her loyalty. Boaz agreed, but there was a twist. Another relative had a higher claim to redeem Ruth. Boaz, being a man of integrity, brought this matter to the attention of the community elders. In the end, the closer relative declined, paving the way for Boaz and Ruth to be married. Their love story is one of faith, trust, and divine orchestration. But the story doesn't end there. Ruth and Boaz had a son named Obed. Obed would grow up to be the grandfather of David. Yes, King David. And if you trace the lineage even further, Ruth, a Moabite woman from a foreign land, is part of the genealogy of Jesus Christ himself. So, what can we learn from the story of Ruth? It's more than just a tale about loyalty. It teaches us about faith, redemption, and how God can use anyone, no matter their background, for his great plan. Ruth's unwavering loyalty changed not just her destiny, but the course of history. If this story inspires you to trust in faith and watch the beauty of divine plans unfold, share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Remember, just as Ruth had no idea of the grand legacy her faithfulness would create, you too may be laying the foundation for something far greater than you could ever imagine.